I was crying in my car, and I remember crying because I realized that I did not value myself as a mom until the day I became a foster
Oh, wow.
mother. I feel like I took motherhood as for granted until I had Aiden. It's almost like I didn't even appreciate myself as a mother until I had Aiden.
More than Mamis.
Hello. Welcome to a new episode of More Than Mamis
Untold
Untold Stories.
Stories.
I'm Michi.
And I'm Anto.
And today we have Valentina Izarra, a More Than Mami. Thank you for coming,
yay.
Valentina. She's a podcaster. She has a podcast called Mamás con Ganas, which is in English and Spanish, as this podcast as well. She's a dancer, actress, and of course, a mom. So welcome.
Thank you for having me, ladies. I love it.
Well, we're very happy to have you here, and we also I talked to Anto about you because when you told me that story, I was like, okay, you need to listen to this because it's something I never heard before. That you became a foster mom for your son's best friend.
Yes.
Wow,
So
what a story.
we want to know everything about it.
Yes, all the details.
Yes, it's a very interesting story. So I have my older son, he's 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
When he was in second grade, so he was like around 8 years old, his best friend, Aiden, that he was in school with, we used to have him over the house, he used to sleep over, we knew him very well, and his grandfather was his caretaker
Okay.
from the age of 10 months old.
Oh, wow.
Yes, because the mom, unfortunately, is an alcoholic, and the father also with addiction problems. So he was never really taken care of by his mom. It was always his grandfather.
Okay.
But his grandfather, if you can imagine, started taking care of him when he was 78 years old.
Wow.
So if can you imagine becoming like a dad
Yes.
at 78? That's kind of
It's
crazy.
impossible.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
But it was, Marty was, the grandfather who all the mothers in Aventura, because I lived in the Aventura area, we all knew him as, the child who was being raised by his grandfather, which is
Wow.
pretty incredible.
And he was nice.
Yeah,
He was
yes.
nice with his grandson.
Oh, yes. He loved, his grandfather was like, Aiden was like the light
Aw.
of his eyes. So he was an amazing person because I don't think not everyone would take the responsibility
Yes.
of raising their grandchildren, at that age.
And he was alone, or he had a...
No, alone.
Alone.
Alone because he was a widow, and no, there was no other relatives around at
Wow.
all. So by
Crazy.
himself. Around the age of 8 or 9, the mother moved in with the boyfriend into their house,
Okay.
into the house of the grandfather.
Yeah.
But the grandfather would always tell me that she was not capable of raising her son because of her addiction problems, unfortunately. And then 2020 came.
Okay.
So in 2020, Aiden was 12 years old, and I had changed my son from a public school to a private school.
Mm-hmm.
And we had kept in touch. Interestingly enough, it was the only child that we had kept in touch with from the
From the
public
public
school.
Okay.
Yes. And we got a call. Actually, he contacted my son through text and said, "Can I give your mom's contact information to the Department of Children's Department, DFC, the Children's of Child Protection Services, because I'm under their custody and I don't have anybody to take care of me." And
The grandparents died?
so that day, the grandfather was taken away by the paramedics to the hospital.
Oh my God.
He was unconscious. Yeah, it was really sad. And they arrested the mother and the boyfriend for negligence of the child, and negligence of the
Wow.
grandfather.
Wow.
Yeah, very hard, very rough. It was even on the news and everything. And Aiden really didn't have any place to go, and they asked me if I was willing to have him stay overnight. I said absolutely. They said, "Well, how do you know him?" And I had to explain, we've known Aiden since he was 8 years old. He's a good friend of the family, and he came over that night. Half an hour later, they were at our house,
Wow.
making sure that I thought it was kind of funny in the sense that they came to check to see if I had running water and running electricity.
Yes, I have everything.
Yeah, you know, for us, it's something like of course,
Normal. Like
Yes.
normal, but
Yeah.
yeah, not for everybody.
They open up your fridge to make sure that you have food in the fridge, things that we consider very normal. And then they asked us if we were willing to have him for the long term.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, that day, my husband and I were celebrating 5 years of marriage earlier in the day. And we were thinking, what do we give ourselves as a present for
Another
a 5-year
child?
anniversary?
Oh, okay.
And I have a friend who's an artist.
I
and
thought you were thinking of having another baby.
No, not at all. Like we were done. We were like, 2 is enough, you know?
Yes.
2 is enough. And that day we were like, oh, you know what we're gonna give ourselves for our 5-year anniversary? I have a friend of mine who's an artist. She does beautiful paintings. Let's commission a work. So we called my friend Pia. We're like, we want a painting commissioned by you. Little did we know that that night our 5-year anniversary present was gonna be another child. But it was God that had that a plan for us and not us. It's interesting. But yeah, they asked us like, are you willing to have him for the long term? And I remember I turned around to my husband and was like, oh, you make this call. I am not making this decision.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I didn't, you know, you worry about your marriage, like
For sure.
surviving. And I said to myself, I know that I would say yes, but I didn't want my husband to be resentful.
If you
Yeah.
think about humanity, you say yes, absolutely. But if you think about like
Everything else.
you
Yeah.
just think about it a little bit.
Yeah. And so I turned around to my husband like, okay, I said, you decide this. This is up to you. And I will never forget, my husband said, however long it takes. Which like, I told him, I go, you made like 1,000,000 points that day. It was like the scoreboard. It went up.
Chills.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So he said however long it takes. And then we were in for about 1.5 years. We were in like a custody case because they didn't know that, you know, the state of Florida does as much as they can really for the biological parents, even when it's not in the benefit of the child, I will say.
Wow.
They will do anything to return the kids to their biological parents. And in this case, it became very apparent about 1 year into it that she wasn't going to be capable.
But it's a case about you and against the biological parents, or
No.
is the state?
No, it's very interesting, actually. It's actually, we didn't even become I would say, a part of the case until they ruled out the fact that the mother could not be with the child. So we were just sort of on the sidelines.
Yeah. You were the foster parents.
We were like the temporary foster parents.
Yeah.
So non-relative foster parents. That's how they put us. And they, you know, once they determined and it became clear that Aiden was not going to be able to be with his mom, that's when the state, you know, was asking us, okay. And then they knew also how much Aiden was thriving with us.
Okay.
Because he came and he was really like underweight, like he was malnourished, I would say. Like I remember
Wow.
that first week when he came to our house, I was like worried that he wasn't eating enough. And you know, you worry as a mom, you know, I'm seeing, and I was like trying to feed him and he was eating very little. And even as he was eating very little, he gained 10 pounds in those 2 weeks. 10 pounds.
Wow.
And I
Imagine how was it there?
Yeah.
Yes, he wasn't eating at all.
Yeah. And his eyes were like, I remember he came and
He was sick.
he was like, when you had puffy,
Yeah.
dark circles under his eyes, he wasn't sleeping well. He was failing all of his classes.
Of course. How not?
Yeah, he was failing all of his classes. I mean, it was, and then, you know, I sort of took him like like a mama hen, I would say. My mom kept telling me, don't get too attached, don't get too attached, don't get too attached. Because she could tell that I was like, from the moment that he came into our house, I was like, that's it. He's my child. And he's like, in my head, I was already picturing him in the private school uniform. And my mom was like, you know, you're getting ahead of yourself and you don't know, you're going to suffer.
She was protecting you.
Yeah, she was protecting. She didn't want me to suffer
Yeah.
in case that I had to return him. And I said to her, you know, I don't know why, Mom, but I feel it inside myself that he's ours.
Oh.
Like I felt it. I couldn't explain that to my mom. I just felt it. As soon as he stepped into my house, I couldn't picture our family
differently.
differently. It was really interesting. Yeah.
And how your son felt, because it's pretty amazing, being like with your best friend with you all the time now.
Yeah, well, in the beginning, it was like the honeymoon.
Of course, But then they turn brothers, and brothers always
Real
fight.
brothers, yes.
Yeah, in the beginning, I was like, this is perfect. I have a sleepover every night, and then, things get complicated. Things get challenging. It's been the biggest blessing for us. Mm-hmm. At the same time, it has been a very challenging thing as well. I remember.
How long has it been since?
Now it's almost 4 years.
Oh, wow.
So now it's almost 4 years.
Yeah, it was in COVID, right? Okay.
Yeah. So my eldest son started getting a little jealous sometimes.
Of course.
Because Aiden needed a lot of attention with school, with everything in general. Also, like, my household is a very crazy household because we speak. In that time, I was only speaking to the kids in Spanish at home. And then my husband and I always speak a lot of French between ourselves because he's French Canadian, and we have our little one in French school, and it's just this like melting pot of cultures.
And Aiden language as well.
And Aiden is American
English.
as apple
Yes.
pie. And then it's funny because we're Catholic, and Aiden was brought up Jewish. So it was like,
that's
everything.
interesting.
It's interesting.
It's like in my house.
There you go. Exactly. So it was like a mix of. And so there was a lot that Aiden had to get used to, our crazy Latin culture.
And different family, no? Because even though he knew that maybe his mom and his family wasn't good enough, like, it's his family, no? Like,
Absolutely.
he was used to live in that environment.
Oh, absolutely. Like, it was very hard, I think, for Aiden to come to terms with the fact that he wasn't going back. And then I could also sense within him sometimes that he internalized things as if they were partly his fault, which was very painful to see from the outside.
Very common.
Yeah. And the other thing I learned is, like, no matter how much I tried to, like, make him feel that, like, I was there as, like, his mom, like, at the end of the day, I know that I cannot fully replace
Yes.
his biological mom.
Especially because he was old enough to know. I think
Yeah.
it's different when they're babies, right?
I think biological mom, that was something I learned, and it was hard for me to accept because it made me feel like no matter what I did, I wasn't enough, and I sort of had to let that go. It was interesting. I was speaking to like a therapist once, and I was telling them, like, I don't know how to make him feel like just like welcome, like just feel like part of the family. Like, if you could flip a switch. And she was like, it's impossible. It's not, you're never going to be his biological mom. And I'm like, at the same time, I wasn't trying to replace her because I do respect that aspect of it. But I wanted him to feel
like
that
he has
that
a
he had
mom.
somebody that he could count on. You understand? So that was like a difficult sort of situation. He sees his biological mom, by the way.
That was my question now.
Once every month.
Okay.
Where is she?
She lives in Florida. She's actually a very nice lady. We speak on the phone. I've also like learned that it's important for children, if they can, to stay in touch with their biological parents.
Yes.
As like even as a self-esteem and love
Yes.
type of a thing. It's very hard when his mom cancels on the day that they're supposed to see each other, and it's so hard for me sometimes to have
And
to
it
tell
happens
him.
regularly,
It
or-
happens sometimes, and it's heartbreaking because
He was excited.
because he
right?
gets excited, and then when it doesn't happen, it just like it's like the world comes crash, and I see it like written like all over his face. It's quite, that can be a little bit emotional.
Yes, for sure. For sure, it's hard. It's
And what about
difficult.
your husband? How's their relationship?
Oh, Aiden loves my husband. Dads sometimes take the fun role in the parenting relationship when we do all the hard work as moms, I feel sometimes. They have a really good relationship. I think he admires my husband a lot. I call my husband the triple threat dad
Okay.
because he is a stepfather, a biological father, and
And
a foster dad.
Wow,
So he's like the
yes.
three things.
Wow.
Yeah.
The ingredients.
Yeah, he's like all the ingredients. Like you're like 3 in 1. And interestingly enough, he has like the father, like the real father role in all of the three
so
situations.
cute.
Yeah.
So and it's great because I have sons, right? And boys need
Yeah.
Not that women don't need a good, a good father,
like
role
a
model.
father figure. Yeah.
Yes, I mean we do, right?
We do.
You hear about the daddy issues all the time, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. But for boys,
Yes, you need a role model.
You
You need someone
it so bad
to admire.
Yes, because you're sort of left thinking, well, like, who can I become?
Of
And
course.
if you have nobody to look up to as to who the type of person that you can become, the mother can tell the son, you can do this and you can do that. But if they don't see it,
Yes.
I always admire the relationship like my kids, the twins, have with my husband. And I was just in the hospital with Paul, one of my sons, and I wanted him to like be strong and like to accept the pain that he was feeling and all that. And I was like, you have to be strong like your daddy, fuerte como papi, and he would repeat it, sí, fuerte como papi, strong like daddy. And that gave him so much strength because he has the figure, he's like, oh yes, daddy's strong, I can be like him and I can act like him. So that's really nice of
it's
your
really
husband
important.
that he accepted. I feel like if I tell Nathan right now, look, I'm adopting a kid, he'll be like,
I don't think so.
hell no. It's like, let's find someone else, a very nice family, but not ours.
No, but you guys think that
Yeah.
like I don't think if somebody would have told me the day before, this is what's gonna happen.
I know, yeah,
I would have
it's
been like,
No
way
way.
in hell. Like I would have like no. I am like I have 2 kids. I have a little one, and because I think Leo was 3 years old.
Wow.
A baby.
He was 3, and then Lucci was 12. So they're 9 years apart, my children, and so I was I was like, there's no way. I don't have time. You think to yourself, right?
Yeah.
No matter how many kids you have. If you have 1 kid, you think to yourself, I don't have time for a
Yes.
second one. And when you have 2, you think, I don't have time for a third one.
Yes.
Somehow.
I really don't. But it's
But
like,
you jumped the baby part with it. So it's okay.
That's good.
Yeah.
At least he was grown up, so that's
There
an
you go.
advantage. Valen, has been like, have you ever thought that he will one day be like, I want to go back with my biological family? Can he? How's it work like legally?
Well, now he's become our permanent foster son.
Okay.
So we're not able to adopt him
Okay.
because
Why?
So if like if the child has a relationship established with the biological parents, the state doesn't allow adoptions because they're afraid that the adoptive parents will not allow the child to see the biological parents. So the state does it to protect
that
biological
connection.
relationship,
Yeah.
even though no matter how minimal it is, they know that it's good for the child to maintain
the relationship.
to maintain that relationship. And so in our case, he became permanent, but we can't adopt him because there's been cases in the past. Like, we understand that he would need to see her,
Okay.
his mom, and actually he keeps in touch with his biological grandmother on the dad's side as well.
Okay.
And the dad sometimes sends gifts and will call once in a while as well.
He keeps his original last names.
He has we all have different last names in my family. That's another thing.
So you go on a plane and
Yes.
it's like, who are you?
You're like, yeah. So I'm like, I call for my name, Valentina Azara, and they're like, is Zara for everybody? I'm like, no. I'm like, it's gonna be
Just take a pen.
just take a pen. It's 5 different last names.
Wow. That's a lot.
Wow, Valen. And this is like another question that I see, in the way your dynamic works. But how does it make you feel, that you now have this new child, but you're a mom, you also work with your husband in his company, you work as an actress in theater, films, you're also a dancer. How do you feel at the same time? You feel like you're capable at the same time to do all this and also raise 3 kids?
I think we all do what we can to do
You
it,
can,
right?
yeah.
I feel like we all say, oh my God, I would never be able to have another kid. But if we're forced to do something or confront something in life, somehow we figure it out. It's like we don't know how strong we are until we're faced with something really hard.
Yes.
I mean, you were going through something really difficult this weekend.
Yes.
I'm sure that if somebody would have told you about that before, you would have said, there's no way I would be able to handle that. And then somehow life, I really do believe that God only gives us what we can handle.
Yes.
And somehow we figure it all out. And I think that if you have passions that are part of your life, like you have a lot of passions and you have a lot of passions, and you somehow are able to, you work it out, right?
Yeah, what I like is that she hasn't stopped doing what she likes, you know, because like you take dance lessons and you dance when you're a kid and your parents take you to the dance classes, but she manages to keep doing it. And that's something like I truly admire, because sometimes I wonder and I ask myself, like, do I have a hobby or is everything related to work, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or if you have to sacrifice something,
Yes.
you know, for raise your
and
kids.
there are sacrifices.
Yes, for sure.
I mean, sometimes I sacrifice my children. So my dance days are Tuesdays and Thursdays. They know it's like church for me. It's my oxygen. Tuesdays and Thursdays, mommy's a dance. If they have a basketball game those days,
I'm so sorry, but I'm not
so
coming.
sorry, but I'm, yeah. You know, I try to make as many basketball games for my older children as I can.
But that's
Yeah.
good, because you have your rules and you don't want to break your own rules, the things that make you happy.
And you know, it's interesting. Talking about happiness, I saw this reel. Somebody sent it to me. I think it was my aunt. She sent me a reel, and it was like, do you know that the number one determinant of raising happy children or making sure that they're going to be happy in the future is being a happy mom? I just got goosebumps.
100%.
It's like,
100%.
so if they see us happy and doing things that fulfill us, we teach them that it's okay for them to be happy. Because how many moms do you know? I know I've ran into a lot of moms that are like, I don't do anything for myself. I don't do anything for myself, and I'm miserable, and I don't take care of myself. And I'm like, well, when your kids are doing gymnastics or whatever, you go to your gym and do something for you, whatever you love, right? Take an art class. I mean, everybody has different passions. But if you don't show everybody else that you're important,
that's true. Who's
going to make you
care?
important?
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Has anyone like close to you, a friend or something, like told you were crazy when this happened? Like,
Everybody.
Where they were like, what?
I think they were like a little, maybe a little bit concerned. I think sometimes people might be negative, or they might overcomplicate things. I think when you take on something like this, you have to have like a certain positivity mindset, where you're like, no matter what comes, I'll address it. And also take day by day. Because sometimes you can go into that mindset of, like, what if I fail at this? What if I try my best, and what if I still am not able to give him all of the life lessons that I want him to? And what if he's not successful in the future? What if he ends up being, you know, I mean, there's a million things. You know, what if he does the same thing his parents decided to do? I mean, things cross your mind.
Have you had those conversations with him?
Well, we have a lot of conversations with Aiden. I try to be as transparent as I can with him. He's also now much more grown up than he came.
He understands that his mother has an addiction.
Oh yeah,
he understands.
He
everything.
understood that like very clearly. Like, yes. It was interesting with the whole alcohol issue, because when I grew up, I never saw alcohol as a problem, because I never saw it as ruining anybody's life. So it's a very different concept for me, seeing alcohol as something bad, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I mean,
Actually, alcohol was something good. Because
like
fun.
It was party time.
Yeah, and not only that, but like when I moved to France and 10 years old, like in France, my parents would give me a little bit of wine even when I was 10 years old. I would have dinner, we'd all have dinner, and my mom would say, un dedo de vino, like a finger of wine, like a little bit of wine. And I would take.
So you sleep well.
There you go, so I slept well. No, and for us, alcohol was something social, and it wasn't, I never saw my parents abuse it, and I never saw it being something destructive. And that was something also that I learned, that I was like sensitized to, because I ended up realizing that it can be something very damaging. However, I wanted also for him to see
that is
not necessarily.
So he's not like thinking as like it's always a problem, you know.
Yes.
Or maybe he might think that what if like I become addicted or something, maybe.
Yeah, well, he has his like he's definitely very mindful of the fact, like when he talks about being older, he's like, I think I'm never gonna taste it because he has such a rejection
Of course.
to it, and I respect that because I have also had friends who have never tasted alcohol. I remember a friend of mine who was 26 years old, and he told me, I never tasted alcohol and I never want to taste it because I think his mom or his dad, somebody was an alcoholic. So those are things you have to sort of respect, and knowing that everybody has a different
We have
experience.
a friend that it was going through some issue with alcohol with his husband, and it was very weird to understand in the beginning, because it was like, no, like we were taking a picture, like doing cheers, and she's like, no, I cannot do
I don't
that.
want to appear in the photo because I don't want him to see that I'm like, drinking alcohol.
Yeah. I know. I actually have a friend of mine who's like that with her husband as well, because her husband had an addiction with alcohol as well.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard.
So I think you're doing like such a gift to him and to the future, to society, like raising someone with the purest love of a mom, because I see that you treat him like he's another son, and also like not being scared of, like, you know, of that past and not that background, you know, like
You don't have to think about the
Yes.
future, you know, like you're
Yeah.
doing your best now, and like you cannot control the future and the person he becomes, but
well,
you
you're
are
doing your best.
No,
And
yeah.
I mean, we cannot,
That's all you can do.
we cannot with our children either.
Yes.
So it's the same, like we do our best, and I think this is a really good message of like how when you truly love and when you're a mom. I think that if I put myself in your shoes and I see a best friend of my kid coming to my house having nowhere to sleep, I would have done the same.
Yeah, me too.
But I don't know if my husband will have answered the same as me.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, because I wasn't expecting that
Yeah.
answer from. So sometimes you don't know.
Yeah,
And I think also
it was a lot of
yeah.
vibe and energy.
And it's like circumstances that you never know that you're going to be confronted with, and then they come and you're just like, wow, I guess it was.
And you were in a
It was meant
position
to
that
be.
you could.
And we were in a position that we
Exactly,
could.
because that's the other thing. You know, not everybody has the possibilities to raise one more children. So I think things happen for a reason.
Oh, exactly. For you want to know the
Yes.
crazy
Yeah.
The
thing?
universe and
Yes.
God just
Oh, that's
put you in that way.
You always wanted 3 kids or somehow.
No, so listen to this. Listen, this is crazy. So I remember like calling my best friend in France to let her know that I had adopted. Well, I was a foster mom with Aiden, and when I told her that, she said to me, she goes, well, that's funny. Don't you remember? You always wanted 3 kids, and you always said you were going to adopt the 3rd one. I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, oh, Valentina, don't you? She remembered that when I was younger, she would tell me that I would always say to her, I'm going to have 2, and then I'm going to adopt the 3rd. And I didn't remember that. And my best friend was like, yeah, that's what you would say.
Words have power.
The power.
Words
Yes.
have power. And then interestingly enough, like the last conversation I had with Aiden's grandfather, he had come to pick up Aiden, and it was just before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And he had come to pick him up because Aiden had spent the night, and he was telling me about how worried he was should something happen to him. Because he didn't know what would end up happening with Aiden. And he was telling me this, and
He didn't know you would be the person.
he had no
No.
idea.
Wow.
And then, I still remember that last conversation, because I remember in my mind thinking, this is so sad, but this has nothing to do with me. Literally, I didn't think it would have anything
That's
to
what
do.
you thought. Yeah.
And then life has a way of presenting.
What would you recommend to any mom maybe that she's listening and she has a foster kid right now, to some tips about like how to handle stuff as a family with a foster kid? What would you say?
Yeah, have patience.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my patience gets tested a lot, you know?
Yeah.
And I have to remind myself, okay, you know, like Luciano, my oldest, has been living with me for 16 years. Aiden, he got to us at 12. Like there's a lot of things that sometimes I see as it just should be like this and that's it. But I forget that he's been through a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
And I have to remind myself of all the trauma that he's going through and sort of put myself in his shoes. I would also say get as much help as you can. Like, you guys have no idea in the beginning what we had to, it was like a whole makeover. So I like, if you could call it that.
Yeah.
We took Aiden to, we had tutors for him for school. We took him to even a occupational therapist because I was worried about
his handwriting,
his development and his handwriting, and I thought there was something wrong with his motor skills. We had to do a full educational evaluation, and none of this was covered, by the way.
And medical test
by
to see if he's okay.
Yeah. Yes, that as well. I mean, and then at that point, we weren't even asking, we became foster parents without actually wanting to become foster parents. So we took on all the financial responsibility. So it was thank God, like you said, thank God we could.
Yeah.
We were giving him everything that we could give our kids and more because he needed more attention.
Yes.
But sometimes the state can give stuff in the beginning, and whatever the state gives you, just go with it, right?
Yes,
sometimes we would prefer to pay the private route because we thought it was better. For the evaluation, we wanted him to have the best evaluation possible, and we ended up paying it. We could have had another one that would have taken longer, and we just didn't want to wait. We did everything under our power.
We wanted him to be okay.
I want him to be okay. And also surround yourself. There's a lot of resources. I know that there's groups of people of foster parents.
Okay.
I feel like we have constant conversations. I talk to my therapist. I ask for advice.
Does Aiden has therapy and your other kids as well? Or?
So actually we're in the process of getting Aiden a new therapist. One of the frustrating things going through the foster care system was that they would change his therapist all the time.
Oh no.
Which is horrible because imagine the one thing they don't have is stability and consistency. And then as soon as he would befriend
someone
the
you
therapist,
trust, and then you change my therapist.
and then you change the therapist. So he was getting very tired of just being tossed around.
It's start all over again.
I would not like to change my therapist at this point. I have she can write a book about all my problems.
Imagine if you have to start with another therapy from the beginning.
Yes, imagine if you have to tell them it's the person who knows you.
Yeah.
So and this is what I saw was something very sad in the foster care system. And I really encourage people who have the financial ability to become foster parents, if they want, to do it.
Yes.
Because there is so much need. And by the way, the kids that are mostly in need, I mean, Aiden is sort of very unique in the sense that he's a white American Jewish boy in the foster care system. Because the majority of foster care kids are Latinos and Blacks.
Okay.
Literally the majority. I would have to be in court. It was during a COVID time. So we would see in Zoom all of the kids that were going through the foster care system. And it was sad. They were all Blacks and they were all Latinos. And there is so much need. And these kids get tossed around in a system. They have parents that are unfortunately, for one reason or another, are incapable of helping them out, that they haven't been there. Some of them are in the foster system for years.
And what happens if no one takes them?
They are in foster homes, no?
Well, they find them a place. The problem is that sometimes they can't find them permanent placement. And then the social workers.
That's what they ask you.
Yeah, and then the social workers that are working, that we became very close to some of the social workers, they are so overworked. They're so overworked that after working there for a while, they quit because it's too much. And so the kids, all they see their entire lives is inconsistency in adults and feeling that they can't count on anybody.
So hard, so sad.
So sad. And I remember this one time I was witnessing in court via Zoom, the 16-year-old boy, which is the age that Aiden is going to be. And they asked him, it was an African-American child, and they asked him, well, we're going to decide today whether you go back to your biological parents or if you stay with your foster parents. My understanding was that there was a lot of problems even within his foster parents. And they asked him, where do you want to go? And the kid literally said, I don't care. And you could see Like, you know,
my
where somebody's light in their eyes is turned off.
Oh, I know.
Like, it was this child it was just, he wasn't there. The light was turned off. And I remember like crying in front of the screen. I mean, obviously they couldn't see me, but I cried and cried all day long. And I said and then I said to Aiden, I go, I will not permit for you to be a 16-year-old boy who doesn't have an opinion for himself. I go, you always have to be an advocate for yourself. And there's always a reason for you to live. There's always a reason for you to live, and no matter what. And this, I tell my children.
But he didn't have a reason to live.
No, this child, poor kid, had been disappointed over and over and over. That's why I say, if you have the economic means to do something and you're presented with something similar that I was, do it, because, I don't know, I think the world...
Can you be a foster parent of someone you don't know? Like
now, yes. After, I mean, I don't know if my husband, there you go. I don't know if my husband would do it again, but I would. I think I would choose somebody maybe younger if I don't know them, even younger, so I have more influence. Although, I mean, you hear so many stories. I have friends that have adoptive children. Obviously, the best case scenario is to get a child that's the smallest possible.
Yes, it's a baby.
But I do think, listen, I've seen Aiden change so much and thrive so much, and love can do so much.
That's true.
I mean, is it challenging? Yes. Do I know what the future holds for me and for him? I have no idea. I'm trying the best that I can, and hopefully the fruits of my labor and my husband's labor will pay off one day. For him, right? It's not really for me.
No.
It's for his life.
And did you ended up like becoming into a solution for like your son being a bit jealous of Aiden?
Listen, now they're like brothers.
Yes, of course.
They consider themselves brothers, though
It's been 4 years.
They argue so much.
They have the same age, no?
Yeah, pretty much. So Aiden's 15, he's gonna be 16, and my other son's 16. So they're right there. Now they're 1 grade difference, but
Same school?
same school.
Oh,
I ended up, as soon as I knew that Aiden was gonna stay with us, I was like, okay, if my
it's so
children,
much work.
Yeah, and if my children are going to a private school, I'm not gonna leave you in the public
No.
school.
No,
Like,
that's like that was something I was wondering, like how like it must be like weird, you know, for him like to feel like, oh, is it different for me stuff because I'm not a biological child. So I think like since you're treating him the same, it's like because you truly feel like he is. And that helps a lot with the thriving that you're seeing.
Yeah, and I hope he sees it. I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. And honestly, he's an amazing kid. He won the Optimist Award
Oh wow!
after in 8th grade, which I cried about. I was like, oh my God. So he's like, he's a happy kid. You know, there's definitely things that I feel like we're talking about the therapist that we're getting him, because I think there is a lot of healing still that he needs to work through, that he hasn't been able to work through.
Yes.
And he needs that. So we're actually like, we were interviewing somebody this week, like to see if it would be a good fit for him, because again, we want somebody that's going to stay with him as a therapist for the long term and not have to change again.
But is the government who changed the therapist?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, no, yes. When we were in the, what was it? Like when we were foster parents and we didn't have permanency, it was the government that kept changing.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it's us.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
it's you. Wow, Valen.
Wow.
Time is over
What
in
a
this
story.
episode, but
It's beautiful.
this is like so inspiring. Like I keep wondering, maybe one day because I always wanted 3, seriously, and I have had this conversation in this podcast many times, and I just think it's hard being pregnant, but if you're a foster mom, you don't have to.
You have another problem.
You have another problem.
You know, the only thing is with foster kids is that sometimes you don't know if you're going to get to keep them.
That's what is
I
hard.
think that would have been really hard
That's
for me.
hard.
Like not having to give him back would have been really, really hard. You know? So.
But you get with the reward is that you did something good for that kid, even if it's get taken away from you. Like if you give him a good time and a good experience, and he learned good stuff
Yeah,
about
so
your family.
you're going to be worried during your whole
know.
life to see.
Yeah.
No, but
if-
like, you know, I always bet the system. I'll be like, you know, we'll see you. You'll come to our house.
exactly. You know, it's interesting. The first day I had Aiden, I had like a breakdown, but not because of what you would expect. I was crying in my car, and I remember crying because I realized that I did not value myself as a mom until the day I became a foster.
Oh, wow.
I feel like I took motherhood for granted until I had Aiden. It's almost like I didn't even appreciate myself as a mother until I had Aiden. Because I just thought, well, of course I make dinner because it's my children. And of course I take them to whatever, soccer practice or whatever, because it's my kids.
It's like your responsibility, but
Yeah.
now
And
like,
yeah.
it wasn't your responsibility, but you're still doing it because you're a mom.
And because I realized some mothers are not like that. And when I realized all of the things that Aiden was like taking him, just things that you consider so normal, like taking him to the doctor and making sure, this is normal things. And when I realized that not all children had that, I was like, thank you to myself. And I appreciated myself. Because I think sometimes as moms, we don't appreciate ourselves.
We're too hard with ourselves.
We're hard with ourselves. And we think, oh, we do something, but everybody does it. No, like we're special. If we love our children and we're taking care of our children and we do the best we can, it makes us really special.
This is a good message. Well, thank you, Valen, for being here. We're gonna leave your Instagram and your podcast so people can know more about you and your story and all the amazing work you do.
The power of love.
I love it. I
The
love
power
it.
of love.
Anto, will you be a foster mom?
Absolutely.
So that's the question for you here. Join us the conversation in the comments. Remember that you can watch Untold Stories every Thursday. Look it up in Spotify, More Than Mamis Untold Stories on YouTube. And always, we have the Spanish episodes every Monday, More Than Mamis. All right? See you
Bye-bye.
then. Bye-bye.
More than Mamis.